Hi everyone, welcome back. So I finished my 5 placement games as allies. I'm almost there with the Axis. I've got one more game to play and it's coming towards the conclusion, so we're almost there as well. So I've got a rank with allies. So what I thought I'd do, as I mentioned, I'm going to go through in one video, game by game, probably like a couple of minutes each game, just to highlight the key points and what went well, what went badly, and things maybe I could improve and the overall results. So here we go, game 1. So our first game was against GIDEON. We had an average Russia, well below average West Russia, but above average Ukraine, so overall it levelled out. Germany actually failed Season 7. They lost 2 fighters and didn't manage to kill the transport, which was great for me. But they did heavily stack Ukraine, which meant it was too big for a strafe. It also threatened West Russia the round after, so I decided just to stack Caucasus and abandon West Russia. For UK, because he lost the 2 planes, even with the bomber buy, we were able to get the fleet off in Season 8, as well as trading France. Obviously, he didn't use the battleship in Transjordan, so we were able to stack Egypt and take out the transport in 61, while also pulling the carrier and destroying his battleship in 16, which is nice, and pulling the carrier through the Suez to hopefully deter the Japanese going for it. But yeah, 3 infantry for India, and yeah, a UK stack down, UK 1. So Japan won, fairly normal. He went straight up to 4 transports, which is I think probably the right move. He didn't take Pearl Harbor, so I was able to move the carrier and some bits into Season 45, obviously with the idea of bringing those 3 US fighters into India in round 2 rather than later. So it's obviously a good thing to do if you can. So bringing what we can back to the Pacific, sorry, for the Atlantic rather, yeah, we've managed to bring our carrier and transport that were in Season 17 through the Med actually, because we could reinforce with fighters from the main fleet in Season 8, and we're going to reinforce with the UK cruiser that's in 12. So yeah, a bit of a speedy return to UK. So round 2 US, we're hitting everything available. I didn't leave enough to hit Northwestern because the UK failed to trade France, unfortunately, but we didn't have enough to trade both France and Northwestern, so took France, took Finland, landed in Morocco. We have enough fleet to defend against the planes he's got available, which is very few after that failed Season 7 attempt, so yeah, we take all of that out. Russia, round 3, we hit Ukraine, we go for West Russia. He split his troops out oddly. He's sort of half stacked. He's got a mini stack in Karelia, the main stack's in Belarus with another mini stack in the Baltic states. So yeah, slightly unusual positioning from the Germans on this one. So unfortunately this is the end of the game. It was this round that I'm not sure if it was actually a forfeit by him or it was a timeout, but the game was forfeited this round. Now it may have something to do with Japan. He went for, in J2, a very aggressive play on India. With pretty much everything he could bring. He brought all his transports along. He built a bomber, brought all his aircraft nearby. Now the issue was, obviously we had 3 extra US planes in range of India for round 2 because of obviously he didn't take Pearl Harbor and left me the opportunity to move my fleet to 45. So India was already 3 fighters stronger than it should have been. He's also positioning with his German stack meant that the Russian front was okay to send tanks and actually planes down to get Oz in India as well, so it may have been just the gambit that failed. I think he tried to play this very aggressively, and maybe when he saw the defense, I think he may have just pulled out. But I might be wrong. He may have just timed out. I do honestly forget what happened. So, but either way, an early win in the bag. Shame we didn't go for longer, but yeah, it happens. There we go, a win. So on to game 2. Okay, welcome to game 2. So I'll be doing these games in order that they finished, not that they started, because some I started early and didn't finish till really far later, because there were some pretty long games in my placement games. But yeah, this is game 2. We paired up against DARTH SKULLZ, who was actually, he was one of the players in the very first community game. He played Russia in the original community game back in 2020, May 2020. Damn, long time ago. Jeez, we've been doing this for, yeah, good solid 2 years up to this point. Anyway, yeah, I actually tried to message him, but I don't think he's active anymore, which is a shame, because I would have liked to have talked about this game with him, because it was a good game. It was a lot of fun. and it had some ups and downs, should we say. So I'll get cracking now. But anyway, Russia won. I didn't actually record this round for some reason, but took a screenshot of it, realising I'd made a mistake. And yeah, so we had an average West Russia here, 5 infantry left, and slightly above average Ukraine with 3 tanks. So yeah, I can't complain. Okay, jumping ahead slightly, we're on UK4. So at this point, I'm starting to feel slightly under pressure. He's expanding with Japan, although he's not admittedly got Australia yet. He is expanding towards, pretty much just solely towards Russia at this point. I've lost control of West Russia, which is unfortunate for me. So there's actually very few UK troops around Russia, which is not great. So yeah, I'm starting to feel the pressure a little bit. I obviously don't want to concede the Caucasus and Kazakh together. So here it's the point we decided to go for a med shock, because I didn't understand why I wasn't going for one before, really. It's something I've got into this habit, which has been broken since this new season started, from playing a few people, but of going purely to Finland regardless of what's going on the board. It's like just a head down, go for Finland type of deal, which is not a good way to play. I think the med, if you can get into the med, it's not always possible because the Germans can build a lot of air force, but if you can get in there, then it's great for early trading. It's great for the US income for one, because you're trading a lot of things. That round 3 timing is great. Once you get in there, you hit a lot of things. You can hit Southern Europe, Italy. You can hit a lot of North Africa, Libya, Algeria. So you get a big payday for round 4. But also you are keeping the Germans also a lot of the troops back towards the western side of Europe, because they have to trade sometimes like four or so provinces if the UK are trading France and Northwestern. So yeah, decided to mix up my play here. We're under pressure. Time to start trading a bit more heavily with Germany on the western front. Okay, so jumping ahead to round 7. You see the position is slightly better than it was before. We've managed to force tanks back to Berlin. I think he was worried that I was going to be stacking France at some point, so we've managed to draw 6 tanks off the front line, which is great. So Russia's position is definitely stronger than it was. Japan's not really managed to stack anything as of yet. They're getting close to, but they're not actually there yet. And we have got some UK troops that we've been using to trade Kazakh consistently all round, combined with our air force. So Russia's definitely in a better spot. And this round we've also started to build a stack in Norway. This is going to be the end game stack where it's hopefully going to take Berlin at some point. So jumping into round 10, again, significantly improved position for the Allies. Germans are very much weak now. They pulled out of West Russia, leaving some Japanese fighters alone. So we're going to try and hit the Kazakh stack, West Russia and Belarus with the UK. Some terrible trades for us though. We only killed 1 fighter in West Russia, which was just really annoying. Didn't manage to kill the Kazakh stack, but we destroyed most of it. So there is no Kazakh stack now for the Japanese. They've gone for India, which is totally fine. So I'm fine to pull out now, and the Americans are nearby, so we're going to force the Germans back. So skipping ahead again here to the beginning of round 14, which is a crucial round in this game. People in Discord may have seen the post about it. But in this position, we'll just quickly analyse the board. We're in a winning position now as the Allies. The Japanese have got a stack in Caucasus, yes. However, Berlin is very much vulnerable at this point. They've only got 22 infantry in Berlin itself. They've got limited tanks and air force, and we've got a fairly good number of UK troops, well, a good number of UK troops and US troops nearby, which are going to be aiming to stack the Baltic states at some point soon. So at this point, there's a minus stack coming through Kazakh to reinforce the main stack in Caucasus for the Japanese. And at this point, we decided to go for a strafe because it looks weak. I was very careful to calculate. I think it was I forget the exact percentage what it was, but I think it was about a 95% chance of. When you're calculating strafes, you obviously want to give yourself a 95% chance and above that you won't win the fight in one round, because obviously if you win the fight, then you committed your entire stack into the territory, and in this case, doing that would mean leaving Moscow completely vulnerable. So we don't want to do that. That would be a disaster. So we calculate pretty carefully. I think we had, as I said, I think we had about a 95% chance of not winning the battle in the first round. So it felt pretty comfortable going for the strafe. And also, it's a nice way to, take out a lot of reinforcements for the Japanese, because the only way they can get them through really is through Kazakh. Going through India is very slow when you're dropping off units from Japan itself. So Kazakh is obviously the most and direct and convenient route to go through. So yeah, we went for it. Let's just watch the let's just watch the battle. So huge hits. I think, did we actually hit? Yeah, we hit one more than we needed to. So yeah, we wiped them in the first round. So I was just kind of I was very frustrated at that point because we hit like a 5% chance of actually winning the fight. So our entire Russian stack, pretty much, aside from a few infantry and a tank, were dumped into Kazakh, which was unfortunate because at this point I was a few rounds away from winning the game, I'm pretty sure. And we had obviously a lot of troops actually in Egypt as well, which we were pushing back against India. We had some good stack numbers nearby, and yeah, that happened. So pretty unfortunate round 14 for Russia there. So just getting onto the US move, round 14. So obviously Japan's taken Moscow. Now this is an important mistake I think from DARTH SKULLZ. He had the entire stack in Caucasus. What he decided to do, I think the best move here would have been just to stack, or just to move everything into Moscow to make sure you could have held it for the following round. What he decided to do was split the stack and kill my Russian forces in Kazakh while also taking Moscow. Now the issue with this is obviously you kill the Russian stack, but the problem is I was bringing everything I could back towards Moscow to help out. And so he's enabled me now to recapture Moscow with the UK, which is, yeah, not the greatest play, I don't think. I think this is what saved me in the game. I think at this point, if he'd have stacked Moscow with everything, I think he probably would have won the game, because he could have, from here, it would have been a great staging point to reinforce. It would have been closer, definitely. I think he would have probably won the game. We still have a good position against Germany, but the problem is we need to now think about pushing back towards Russia, because obviously Moscow, we can't have the Japanese sitting there with a lot of extra IPC plus a 8 deployment zone, right on a doorstep. So that would have been disastrous. So yeah, he split his forces. So we're going to try do a hit with the UK, and then obviously we do have we've got 26, I believe, infantry for the US nearby, which we can reinforce with planes to also bring into West Russia for the following round. So if he retakes with what he's got in Kazakh, then we can hopefully retake with the US in round 15, and then that should be the end of it. That should be the Japanese troops pretty much, all dead, and we've got Moscow back under control. So that's the game plan. So skipping ahead now to US 15, the crucial round. So obviously we took back with UK, and he retook with the forces in Kazakh, and now it's our job to finish it off, hopefully, and kill the remaining troops in Moscow. So 26 infantry with 5 planes as a backup. Decent first round hits actually from the infantry, that's better than expected. 3 more for round 2, and the tanks are dead. So at this point, it was he did resign at this point. I think he knows that the situation is lost. There's no counterplay here for the Japanese at this point, because we've still got the 8 stack of infantry in Persia as well that are going for India, and plus we've got a lot of planes nearby. 19 infantry left alive in Moscow. It's just too much for him to deal with at this point, and obviously Germany is still very much weak, because the UK's been trading on the side still to keep Germany in place, and we've actually managed to maintain the medship as well. So we've not really messed up our logistics at all here. We've just been using the stack that was going to go for Berlin, went for Moscow instead to finish it off. But yeah, GG's to DARTH SKULLZ. It was a good game. I think it was nerve-wracking for me that strafe, that failed strafe, was kind of crappy. So I was worried I was going to lose this game, but I think I was fortunate to come out with the win here. But there we go, 2 wins in the bag. Let's get on to game 3. Okay, so on to game 3 against MACGAVMIL. So just covering the end of the first round of combat here. Very good Ukraine actually. We had an average West Russia, 5 infantry left, and Ukraine was definitely above average with infantry, artillery, 3 tanks. It's definitely a nice Ukraine to see as the Russians. So on his Germany 1, he decided to go all out for Ukraine. Used his transport to drop off more troops into Ukraine as well, which we will be strafing this round as Russia. Interestingly, he put his planes all into Bulgaria, so they were completely out of position for, obviously, preventing a UK fleet. So we did get the UK fleet off, and we even took Norway as well with the transport that was left in C-Zone 10, because there was just no planes to do anything about it. But rough first round of combat there for Ukraine. Admittedly, not great rolls back either, but wasn't a great ideal start for us there. Against some big hits for both of us in the second round. And we'll go for one last push, 2 more tanks dead, one instead fire. So not the best strafe there. I would have liked to have seen a slightly better ratio of hits there, but yeah, it is what it is. It did kill a lot of troops on the front line, and we obviously knew we can't hold West Russia after this attack because he's still got a decent amount of troops, bordering with Karelia and some tanks in Poland. So I think decent value there. We definitely stalled out Germany here, and obviously we can control. Still got 3 tanks alive, and we can still control the front line. So skipping forward to round 4 with the Russians, the German front line is pretty much completely collapsed at this point. We've got a stack off in Ukraine, which can be retaken, but it's going to cost tanks to do so. And the UK are pressing into Karelia, so yeah, the front line's completely open now for us to walk in. We have got the Menshikov as well in the with the US, so that's nice. We're trading the southern territories. UK's got the north, and the Russians are free to press in from the east generally. Okay, so skipping ahead to the end of round 5. So you can see the board position from here looks very, very convincing for the Allies. They've got very much a winning position at this point. The entire eastern front for Germany's collapsed, so they've got no ground troops at all really that side. So Russia at this point is going to be able to take what they want from the Eastern European territories, which is nice. We're still trading in the Med, but also we're prepping a big shipment of troops into France for round 6. But yeah, Japan here as well has not really been able to get going. We're holding them off in India still, Kazakhstan, and also we've got troops in Karelia as well to help trade Archangel. So yeah, there's no real way in for the Axis at this point. So yeah, the game's not too far from concluding at this point. Okay, so we're jumping here to the end of the game, round 7. So you can see from the board we managed to capture Berlin with the UK, which is great. I forget exactly what the odds were for the fight, I can't remember. But yeah, it was definitely left weaker than it should have been. So we were able to jump in and then cap it, which was great. And obviously, yeah, it led to a resign for MACGAVMIL, which is totally fair. It's a lost position at this point for the Axis. But yeah, anyway, GG's, well played. That's game 3 in the bag. On to game 4. So we get onto game 4, and I thought the SKULLZ game was going to be the highlight of this particular group of placement games, but no, this was the highlight. An absolute insane game. So we got placed against his or her name was AXISALLIESCMDR, and it was, I think it holds the record for me now as the longest game I've ever played. It was, for a placement game as well, you're trying to get through them quickly. This was a slog, to say the least. So we'll obviously jump around and try and highlight the key moments, but yeah, this is a fantastic game. So I won't spoil the ending, but we'll get into it. Okay, so we're jumping straight to round 9 here, because this is the sort of the first key point to raise in this game, I think. So up until this point, it's been a fairly normal game. I think I felt slightly behind in this game, I'll be honest, the entire way through. Not majorly, just slightly. In this position, you can see we've just started to get troops, a stack of US guys into West Russia here, because the Germans had the Caucasus stacked with a significant amount of tanks and planes. What he went for in the early game was basically pretty much tank pressure from Germany against the Russians, and then he also went for India with Japanese. So we managed to hold off for quite a few rounds here, but we did have to eventually concede the Caucasus, and also we pulled out of India. But now the Germans have got a decision to make, because they are currently in the way of a 3-way attack. They've got the Russians obviously in Moscow, they've got the Americans now stacking West Russia with some decent air force nearby, and of course they've got the UK that have just come out of India that can attack them from the south. So they've got a decision to make. They need to retreat really, because there is no holding. The Japanese are not in range to support them. They can bring a few planes in, but that's not going to be enough to keep them alive. So yeah, they've got a decision to make at this point. So moving forward into round 13, you can see we've kind of got a precarious position now. The Germans in the Caucasus decided to push south and kill the troops that were coming out of India, but I think that was a mistake on his part, because it's very difficult once you pull those tanks south into Persia. It's very easy for then the Allies to stack Caucasus and lock you in place, because you can't move out first. You can't move with the, at least if the Allies have got a lot of UK presence in the Caucasus, which I did. I had some good forces with a lot of aircraft. The Germans can't move out first into Kazakh, let's say, because the UK will hit them hard with everything they've got and probably wipe out the tanks. So it's very difficult, and you can't obviously abandon them in Persia because obviously the same thing will happen. So they became stuck basically in Persia, and it led to this interesting sort of stalemate between the stack in Persia and in Caucasus. But also there was a secondary build between the Baltic states and Karelia, as we both tried to reinforce both sides, you know, and I was trying to balance, trying to dead zone everything around, you know, around the Caucasus, whilst also not letting Karelia fall to the secondary German stack that was building in the Baltic states. So it was quite a nice, interesting balancing act, this sort of mid-game here. We're both reinforcing here and there and just vying for positions. I still control Africa though, which is nice. We've been slowly flowing troops in with the US because obviously that's going to be a point of contention as the game continues. We need to keep a presence in Africa. We can't let the Japanese, you know, storm roll that, so we had to keep reinforcing. But yeah, an interesting mid game here. As you see with the war report, we're fairly even. Yeah, I think it is slowly swinging in our favour though. Okay, so now we're getting to round 21, and that's at this point. I feel like the position is starting to become very difficult. We were starting to lose control of Caucasus, but the tanks, he sent some of his German tanks into Africa and started to, rapidly mop up all around Africa. So at this point the German economy is fairly strong given the situation, so we decide it's time to go all in for Berlin and try and take Germany out of the game, because we do have a big stack all combined of US troops in Europe, and we just need to get them together and get them into the Baltic states, which is going to be the target territory to stack everything and then try and take Germany out of the game, because obviously Japan's going to be not able to reinforce in time. They're obviously they're behind. They're all stacked in Persia at this moment. So we'll try and hold. I think we accepted at this point that Moscow will fall because we can't reinforce it with the Russian troops out as well. Not with the view to actually take Berlin with the Russian troops, because that would be game over for me. Because if Moscow's dead, you've got a territory, you've got Berlin that's under Russian control, which actually isn't earning you any money because the income's dead. But it's more about just adding to the stack once the US have taken Berlin. It's useful to have those Russians there to just add that initial defensive power as you push back. Once you've taken Berlin, as you push back towards Moscow. So that was the game plan. We're going to go all out for Berlin. So now on US round 24, as you can see, we've just taken Berlin. This is the following round where we just start to gather some income around Europe. The border itself isn't particularly looking friendly right now. Obviously, the Japanese push straight on through into the Ukraine. They've also landed in Alaska, which is going to be a theme for at least the first portion. I call this the end game now. We've got the end game situation where it's Japan versus the UK and the US. But the initial part of this end game is going to be mainly me fighting off the Japanese attack into Alaska, while also trying to maintain a stack in Europe and hopefully drive the Japanese back. Now, a big mistake I'm going to point out here. I generally speaking, I like end games like this because I feel that it's harder for the Japanese to win because the US are obviously just building numbers, but you can use what left you have of the Russian forces, and the UK can be used just to cause problems. So, for example, the UK can buy bombers and just absolutely just tear the Moscow and the Caucasus complexes to shreds, while the US have to build. So actually you can negate some of the Japanese economy, which is going to be bigger than all of yours, or at very least it's going to be bigger than the US one, and so you can level the playing field quite nicely with the UK. So generally speaking, I like these end games. Now the problem I had here was, I didn't think about this, I just moved too quickly, was leaving Russian controlled territories in Europe, because this is going to remain dead. Those Karelia we had here, Karelia, Belarusia and Poland were all dead income states because they were under Russian control. Now, this is a big mistake for me because that 6 IPC that's completely out of my reign, we're never going to get it back, because the Japanese will refuse to trade those if they don't have to. So throughout the rest of this game, and I will say it ends in round 48, so this is the halfway point of this game so far. This is the halfway point, and that 6 IPC from here would have made a huge difference to the outcome of the game if we'd had it from this point. As it is, we had 6 IPC less than we should have had per round, and yeah, we're in for a struggle. I'll say that much. So this is now the sort of the beginning of the end game, where we've got two competing stacks in Europe, trying to maybe gain some ground, but we're mainly just lightly trading. While there's some counterplay elsewhere on the board, as in Alaska for the Japanese, and we're also trying to regain some territory in Africa, because obviously we did lose that entirely for a few rounds as the German tanks stormed through. So attack power is fairly even as it stands now. So that's a heavy mixture of things. There's also a lot of Russian troops which are essentially useless in this game, apart from defensively. They can't trade and take territory, because then it becomes also dead income for the Allies. So they're more used to strafing units and just defensive units. Now, what was quite funny here was the last buy before Russia fell. I got a carrier in the Baltic Sea, which was quite nice. As one last thing that I could use to help, make some use of the Russian troops, so I could defend the transports in the Baltic Sea. So that was quite nice. But anyway, we're now into the end game of this incredibly long game. Okay, so we're now looking forward to round 31. This is another key moment in the game. The position in Europe has been pretty much unchanged for 6-7 rounds. It's been the Allied stack in Belarus with the Axis stack in West Russia. There's been some back and forth in Africa, but the main point of contention so far has been Alaska. Now, actually, he did a really good job of actually keeping me committing troops up here. He made a really nice defense of Alaska. It culminated in this final attack in round 31 by the US. We actually managed to get some good luck on the trades. He was shipping in each round at least 8 units, plus the drop from the Alaskan complex. And so we eventually, after some good trading, and we managed to get up a big enough stat to actually, while also holding Western United States, we had a big enough stack in Western Canada, to finally overwhelm what was actually in Alaska, and finally push the Japanese out of North America, which was tough. It really was tough. They had a big air force helping them trade. They lost some here, but yeah, they had a big fleet which I couldn't move. Obviously, it was just it's completely secure. And so finally, with some help with some tanks and some good fortune, we managed to actually finally get them out. Now this is a big moment, because I was spending a lot of resources in this push to try and get them out of Alaska, which is obviously resources that weren't going into the stack in Europe. And the numbers were getting pretty scary with the Japanese stack. It was massive. It was absolutely massive. And so we needed this. This was getting really quite dire, so we needed that win to enable us to focus all our IPC back into Europe, where we could hopefully start building back our numbers. And also we were trying to contest Africa, so we've got 3 points to deal with here, which is not friendly. And the Japanese had a bigger economy, so it was tough. And we can only really get help from the other allied nations in Europe. Apart from that, Alaska and Africa were just purely, up to the US to deal with. So yeah, it was nice to finally win Alaska. And now we can, as I said, focus purely back on the main goal, which is going to be to slowly, but hopefully overwhelm the Japanese stack in West Russia. So skipping ahead now, about, what was that, 16 rounds to the final combination attack from the Allies, the great battle of our times. So as you can see, you might be able to, I mean, you can see I didn't zoom in here, I apologise, but they've got 251 infantry actually sitting in West Russia currently. Now the big final move, or the final key thing to note here was we had a big secondary stack battle in Africa. You can see I've got a stack in, I think that's Algeria or Libya, I'm never sure. But I've got a big stack in North Africa. He's also got a big stack. And we couldn't make progress against each other because there was obviously lots of infantry. So he decided to pull all his artillery out of the West Russia stack and use it to push me back, which I initially thought was a good move. Because I can't obviously counter that. He's got about, I think it's about 150-ish units with that. And it's more than I've got, or I can even reinforce into Northern Africa. So my main stack was having to pull back. I did get as far as Transjordan with the actual Africa stack, but at this point I had to keep retreating. Now I thought this was a good move, however, in doing so he compromised the strength of his West Russia stack. I didn't see it initially. There's probably a round or two where I could have actually attacked earlier, but I did, just by the chance, just have a look at the numbers, and at this point in the game it becomes so much automatic just to, you know, build the units, reinforce the big stack, and just press end turn. It became very automatic, but I actually wanted to look at what the odds were here, and we had good odds. It wasn't guaranteed by any means. We had to guarantee a certain number with the UK. Obviously the UK were going to go first. I think it was the UK first. No, it wasn't. It was the US first. Sorry, the US first. So the US weren't likely to win the fight initially, but they would kill enough that the UK could then finish up, and they had. The UK had a significant air force, with obviously a lot of infantry and artillery as well to follow up, so it was going to be a very strong two-way attack. And at this point the German tanks are also out of range, so they couldn't reinforce midway through the attack. So if they were, say, positioned in Persia, following on from the US attack, the Germans could have reinforced and changed the odds, but as it was, he committed all his tanks into Egypt, which I knew was the right time to go for the attack. And also obviously the artillery, the main secondary stat for Japan, was too far to reinforce. So if West Russia should fall, then Moscow will also fall, and obviously they'll start to very quickly lose their entire empire in Asia. So yeah, we decided to go for it. And now just bear in mind that going for this kind of attack in round 40, 47 and 48, it's a little bit scary because you've obviously, I mean, we played this for weeks, and the amount of time we both put into this game was quite, I think it's very long. Obviously it's hours and hours of game time, so to go for this kind of one very quick and decisive attack, it was pretty nerve-wracking. You can see from the attack power, that's the biggest attack power stat I've ever seen in this game. No, I did actually consider waiting until I had 1,000 attack power, just purely to say I'd got to 1,000 attack power at some point in some game, but unfortunately I had to play properly and just go for the win here. I couldn't hang on just to achieve some mild stat victory like that. But yeah, as you can see from the stats here, it's getting pretty insane. We do have a huge lead. That's the problem again with this with Japan against just the UK and US. Eventually, it's going to just catch up, and the Allies will pull ahead. So yeah, this is going to be the key round. So I'll skip ahead now to the big fight, and we'll see how it pans out. Let's do it. Let's do it. Big hits, come on, big hits. Oof. So how are we looking now? It's 170 versus, I think we're still okay. I'm going to push on. Big hits. 51. 69. Push on, I think. 31. 35. Come on. Fuck. No. Oh, they ended up with 86. How's that going to look for us? That was way above average. $86, Jesus. 122 versus 86. Odds are heavily in our favour, as you'd expect. I'm just hoping we can survive with enough to hold the defensive afterwards. Even if we don't, I think it's going to be minimal troops, which I think we can, with the planes we can retake. So it's going to end up in our favour, I think, overall. So without further ado, let's do it. When the in-game calculator says it's strong, you know you've got a good chance, because that thing is incredibly harsh. Okay, so 2, terrible, 35, 44, half the stack dead. And also return fire, 28, very nice. Big hits again, please. 26, 32, almost dead. 70, we're going to have a huge stack left. Fantastic. Whew. Wow, okay. So we've got, yeah, 62 units left after that. Land units. That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. And the massive stack from the Japanese have been wiped out. So how's it looking for us? It's not quite as strong as it was before, but again, the position is huge. So I'm hoping this is a resign at this point. That's what my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping it's a resign. And a resign it was from CMDR. So I have to say, well played. It was a great game. It was definitely the longest game I've ever played, and yeah, it was pretty epic. It was like 3 games rolled into one. There was different segments to this game, different phases we went through throughout the entire game. The initial standoff between Persia and Caucasus, and the secondary phase is the stack, well, the Alaska situation, and then the final phase where it was just the 2 stacks facing off in Europe, and then finally managed to overwhelm them. But yeah, great game. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a slog, but I think the payoff at the end was really satisfying. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. So again, well played. It was a great game, and that's the 4th win in the bag. So on to our 5th and final game. So on to my final game, final placement game for Season 8. We paired up against someone called BODO VOOCHT. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, or her name. But yeah, fairly comfortable game, this one for me. The initial start was great. He went for a big attack on West Russia with his German stack, failed to take it, and from there it led to the sort of the collapse of the German position because all his tanks were gone, and so the combined assault from Russia and the UK meant we could push back fairly aggressively towards Berlin. So you can see here, but the position by round 8 is obviously Russia's very comfortable. They've got no real threats. They're trading with the Japanese here and there, but their overall position is very strong. From the quick war report you saw there as well, the game is very much in hand. India's been traded back and forth, but at the moment we've got a stalemate, which is great for me. Obviously we're stalling out the Japanese in Burma, so looking good. So skipping ahead now to the final, or the initial part of the attack against Berlin with the UK in round 16. So from here, obviously you can see the Russian position is extremely strong. I think after the initial attack on West Russia that he didn't manage to take, his play became more defensive, so he was quite passive with both Germany and Japan, which meant that he conceded a lot of ground in Europe, particularly the Russians. The Russians had a really nice game this round. They were not really under pressure, so that was fortunate. But yeah, this was just obviously the softening up attack from the UK here, for allowing for the US to mop up in the end. 3 hits in the anti-air, pretty painful. Yeah, we're not obviously expecting to win this fight. I think we'll just take what we can. I believe the odds were fairly comfortable without the UK attack, but because we may as well have attacked at this position anyway. The game was already won. It was just a case of grabbing the necessary VCs to close it out. So we may as well have gone for this attack. At this point in the normal game, I think I probably would have pulled out because the odds are you're going to take hits on everything else here, but just decided to commit to it. So we did lose all our UK air at this point, but that's totally fine. Very small stack left in Germany compared to what the US have got to bring in Baltic states, which is upwards of 100 units, pretty much, which is nice. So final mobilization from the. Actually, it wasn't. It didn't end this round. It actually ended in round 17. I forget actually, but yeah. So we've got a final attack against Berlin here in round 16. We also prepped some transport for Hawaii as well, because we were obviously thinking about the VC victory at this point. So grabbing Berlin is 9 VC cities. Sorry, victory cities, and Hawaii would make 10. So we prepped the transport with some subs for round 17. Obviously a comfortable battle here for us, as you expect. Probably didn't have to use the Air Force here, really. I think we could have probably gotten away with not using them, but again, it didn't really matter too much. So that was our 9th victory city, Berlin falls. So Europe is now ours, and obviously Russia's got a stack in Xinjiang already, which is pretty nice. We've got a good forward position to move everything to, which we do. And here we're jumping ahead to round 17, so Japan didn't notice the. I'm not sure they could they have prevented it. I'm not sure. Honestly, not sure. I forget the exact board position, but I think it was doomed. So obviously with them here, not being in range or not dropping anything into. I think he could have actually flown some bombers into Hawaii, which would have possibly stalled the game out for another round, but I don't think he saw it in time, which obviously meant that I could, after he finished mobilising, we could just obviously skip ahead and just drop that one infantry off into Hawaii to win the game. So skip forward and GG's, well played. So yeah, good game, fairly simple game this one. I think he went for something very aggressive in the opening and got punished for it. I'm not sure the exact odds he had on West Russia, but he went for something, you know, risky. It didn't pay off, and I think it led to the, you know, the collapse of Germany after that, really. So ballsy attack, I'll give him that. But yeah, it was just fortunate for me. It didn't work. So anyway, GG to BODO, VOOCHT, however you pronounce your name, and that's our 5th and final game. So 5 wins. And let's just quickly check the rankings after this. So you can see we've got put into gold here, which is nice. We were actually ranked 2, which is pretty good. So we're one win away from platinum, which is pretty cool. I think the nice thing about getting, you know, wins in placement games, it just means you have so much less of a grind throughout the rest of the season. You can already see here, I'm not going to spoil where I end up in Axis, but obviously even with one loss, it's going to guarantee, I think, pretty much you drop a tier. So I think at best we could achieve at this point was silver tier. So obviously to get wherever we get placed in silver, that's going to be at least what 5, 6, 7 games probably to get to a similar position as we are in Allies. So placement games are really quite important. They really are. They can buy you a lot of time if you know, get some good initial games. And if you have a bad start, it's just very unfortunate because it means your season's going to be largely grinding back to where you should be. So yeah, I was just very, very happy with the way the games turned out for the Allies. So obviously means we're going to be straight up to the gold, top of gold, and pushing into platinum. So it's just less work for me, and I can focus on, you know, actually playing the games, and yeah, it's really good. So very happy with the start for the Allies. So I just thought I'd add on a quick addition to this video, as I did while I was making this video itself. I finished a 6th game with Allies. I actually started 6 games in placement because the one I finished today was moving a lot slower than the rest, because it was a very similar game to the game I had against CMDR, where it was Japan versus UK and US. So it was round 38, another long one. We were powering through the game, but it still took a while to get through. So I think I'm going to do a separate video on that game in particular because it was a lot of fun, and yeah, that was a cool game. But we managed to win that as well. So we're now currently ranked 20 in platinum, which is technically my highest rank ever. However, it doesn't really count because the beginning of the season, everyone's sort of, you know, all over the place a little bit with rankings. If I'm able to achieve this by the end of the season, that would mean something, but as it is now, it doesn't mean anything. All it means for me is it's nice to be in the top tier, so I can start playing against the players I want to be playing against, which is, you know, I think the best way to improve. So I'm happy with where I am, just so I can, you know, hopefully get paired against the top people. That's going to be good. But I just did actually, I've started a game against someone called Snoopy, and now Snoopy was previously top 10. We've actually started a conversation. We've been talking in Discord during the game, which has been really nice. He's a cool dude, and yeah, I think he's definitely a better player than me. His rankings are, I think he's around a sort of 100 level platinum, he was saying to me, but he has previously been top 10. So it's been a interesting game so far. So I think I have been recording this one. I think I'll do a video on it as well. This is my first match outside of placement, so yeah, I'll do a video on that one at some point. But yeah, there we go. That's my season 8 placements all finished, which is great. So I can get on now with the rest of the content. So tournaments and community games and just general ranked play for season 8. So yeah, good start, and I'll see you for the Axis video.